Hello and welcome to this library research video from the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Library at San Jose State University. In this video, I'm going to show you the different steps and resources that you're going to use and need in order to find the research materials for papers and projects. We'll look at how you're going to have to develop the language of your topic. I'm going to show you the different tools of where to start. We'll talk about different ways to get the PDFs or full text of your articles. I'll show you how to use the bibliography in an article that you found to find more similar articles. And we'll also take a look at a database called Proquest, Dissertations, and Theses. Before we begin, I just want to make this disclaimer that library research takes time. This video is just going to cover an overview of the steps and the process, but you need to know that there is no quick solution. There's a lot of different tools and there's a lot of different strategies, and you're going to have to find what works well for you. It does take a lot of practice and trial and error, and I'll show you where you can always get help from the SJSU librarians. So we're going to use this example as our research topic. A nursing student, and she's looking for a case study or meta-analysis about hydrocolloid dressings on wound care and healing. There's a restriction on the materials, and they must be published within the last 5 years. So what I want you to know first is that when you're doing searches for these research topics, you can't use natural language. The library's catalog and the library's databases, they're not like Google where you can type in full sentences and the database or the catalog will understand what you're looking for. In this case, you're going to have to take your topic and kind of break it down into its core pieces, and you'll search by those pieces. So let me show you how we would simplify this. So look at your topic and figure out what is the main issue. What is the main topic here? And in this case, it's hydrocolloid dressings. If you're not familiar with these, they're kind of like Band-Aids, but they're these patches. And it can be a large patch or something the size of a Band-Aid, but they're kind of like gel, and they create a seal on the skin. And they're there for healing wounds. It's really effective, much more effective than a gauze or typical Band-Aid. So within this topic, the student is looking for how hydrocolloid dressing is connected to wounds and wound healing, and she needs a meta-analysis and a case study. Again, you're going to search with words, not sentences. So take your research topic and break it down into its keywords. And in this case, it's hydrocolloid, wound, healing, and meta-analysis. You could also obviously swap meta-analysis for case study, but that is the core of what this research topic needs. We have to find articles in the form of case studies or meta-analysis dealing with this issue of this type of dressing and its effects on wounds and healing. Once you break down your topic into its core elements, you've got to figure out where to start. Everything that you're going to need will be available through the library's homepage. That's library.sjsu.edu. We're going to look at these three tools that are interconnected. There's the OneSearch catalog, and that's the library's catalog. And you can search that for books, some research articles, newspapers, and media. That's your typical library catalog. Then we have databases. Databases, they're usually dedicated to collecting the research within a specific field. So every research area, every discipline has its own databases that keep track of the research in that area. I'm also going to show you subject guides. The librarians at SJSU made these research guides that collects all the links to the best resources for that discipline or that subject area. And to carry out your research effectively, you're going to be able to use all three of these tools together. And I'm going to show you how to do that and how they are kind of connected to one another. So this is the library's homepage. Again, that's library.sjsu.edu. To search the OneSearch catalog, you can just simply type this, your keywords here in the search bar and click search. Again, the OneSearch is going to cover books, streaming media, video, if there's even cassette tapes or records, but it's also going to keep track of research articles, and you can do that in this field. If you already know that you're looking for articles specifically, then you can limit your search so it is just looking within that type of material. And you can do that here. You'll get similar results either way. This is just a specific search within the OneSearch catalog. So let's use our key terms that we found with our topic. Hydrocolloid wound healing meta-analysis. This is the typical results page from the library's catalog. It's done its best to match key terms with terms in articles. You can see in this case there's 698 results. Always take a glance at the filters on the left. They can be very helpful, especially in this case where the articles need to be within the last 5 years, so I can change that date to 2015 and refine it. Now I want to point out that there are a lot more articles out there than 336 results. The OneSearch catalog simply skims some of the databases with these terms and pulls back some articles. So OneSearch is not going to provide the most thorough results list, but it is a good place to start if you just want to start finding some articles on the topic. The way OneSearch runs its search, it really just took these words and it's looking to see if there's matches, like either in the article's descriptions or in the article's title itself. Not every article is going to be a hit. It's not a perfect system. For example, this isn't hydrocolloid dressing. It's talking about honey as a healing tool. So there's no way to exclude those results. You're always going to get some random ones in your results list. That's just part of the system. Note that within the library's catalog, if you ever need help, a chat box will pop up. And you can chat with a librarian if you're having trouble or if you're stuck on this screen. So at this point, you could just start browsing to see if there's some hits, if there's some matches for your topic. Again, you might have to take time if you wanted to look through all 336. That's where some of the process is going to really drag out. You might see some off to the side, there might be some filters if you wanted to zero in on a particular subject. So in this case, the subject of wound healing is popping up in this results list, and that does line up with our topic. So I'm going to click on that and try to pull out just the articles that have tagged with wound healing within this list. And you can see that brings our results down to 133. Again, you might have to take time to look through all these, but this might be a really good place to start. One thing I want to encourage you to do right away is make sure that you sign in. When you sign into the library's catalog, it's going to offer a couple new options for you. One of the most important options is that as you find articles that you like, you're going to be able to click on the add to the item. You're going to pin it. And if you're signed in, every article that you pinned will be stored up here. So especially in the early stages, you might just be out there searching, looking for anything that looks interesting. Here's where I would go through the list. Anything that looks interesting at this point, I would pin it, and then later come back to my pinned articles and then spend more time with that rather than just looking at each article individually and going through it. I just want to maybe just capture some that look interesting and go from there. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in, and I'll show you how that works. You can see that I am signed in here. There's my name. So as I find anything of interest, I'll be able to pin it and make sure that I can come back to it later in my favorites. So everything will be listed there. And basically you're just transferring that record into your own saved folder. When you click on an article's title, you'll get to the articles page. On the articles page, you'll see all of our access points. So these articles are not in the library's catalog. The catalog just keeps track of whether or not SJSU has access to it and where that access is. So in this case, we do have full text access to this article, and there's a couple different databases here and resources that collect it. One isn't necessarily better than the other, but one thing I do encourage you to do is try to learn what databases go along with your subject area or your field, and then you can look for those. So I happen to know that within nursing, some of the important databases are called PubMed and CINAHL. So I would be looking for maybe a PubMed or CINAHL link, which will take me to that database where I can get the full text for the article and then maybe search within that database itself. Within your search results, you're either going to see full text available, which means one of our databases might have the full text or should have the full text of that article, or you might see no full text. You are going to be able to order the articles that we don't have full text access to, and I'll talk about that in just a minute, a little bit later in the video. So those are the initial steps that you're going to take when searching in OneSearch for articles or research materials. As I mentioned earlier, it's important to know which databases support your research area. There's a couple different ways to find that out. On the library's homepage, you'll see a link called Articles and Databases. If you click on that, it'll bring up an A to Z list of all the databases that we have access to. Currently, we have 460 databases. And as I mentioned, every database, in most cases, has a specific focus or subject area that it collects the research in. If you know the name of the database that you're looking for, you can find it in this A to Z list and find a quick link to connect to the database. However, you might not be sure which database fits your subject area. From this drop-down menu, you can see a list of all the disciplines that are taught here at San Jose State. Find your department or the department that has the class that you're researching for. Click on that, and in this case it was nursing. And you'll be brought to the nursing databases page. Each subject page will have a best bet of certain databases that you might want to start with, as well as other databases that support this research area. This page will also have the information of the librarian who is an expert in this research area. You can connect with the librarian by emailing him or her, and they will get back to you and start offering support. We can do that over Zoom or through email. You might not know which one exactly to start with, and the thing is, you're probably going to have to try a couple different databases. Eventually, you'll learn what are the core databases in that field, and in the case with nursing, CINAHL and PubMed are some of the bigger biomedical databases. So that's another way to get connected to these. If you're off campus and you click on the link, you'll need to enter in your SJSU ID and password, and you'll be connected directly to the databases. Again, these databases are not in SJSU. We just provide a link to them. Another way to find the research materials within a subject area are finding the research guides or the subject guides for your discipline. These are created by librarians, and we have a page for every single discipline and department at SJSU. In this case, I'm finding the nursing one again, and we'll go straight to it. It's very similar to that databases subject page, but there's a lot more here. Again, you'll always have the librarian that you can contact. Every research guide will have different pages that you can connect to. There'll always be databases and articles or research databases. It might have different names, but there'll always be a page there. Those pages will have the same links that you saw in the subject databases page a second ago. Again, it's just another place to have not only these databases links, but there's a lot more helpful supportive information on these guides. And in this case, Gitali has put up a CINAHL tutorial. So CINAHL is that medical database, and there is a video tutorial that will teach you how to efficiently and effectively search that. So there's lots of great stuff. It all just depends on what discipline you're in, and there'll be different items and different materials for each one. So in order to get connected to the full scope of the research materials and research articles needed for your topic, I want to encourage you to connect to the database itself. In this case, I'm going to connect to CINAHL. Every database's interface is going to look a little bit different. What I want you to look out for is to see if there's different types of filters. It'll vary depending on the database, but we will try to make the most of those. That can be anything from the date range to the material type. You won't see the exact same things on every database, but always check to see if what's there. As I mentioned earlier, you can't just type out your entire sentence in a search box. That's true for the catalog, but that's especially true for these databases. So in this case, I'm going to try again with the hydrocolloid wound healing. We need a meta-analysis. I could type hydrocolloid wound healing in this box and also add meta-analysis or case study. I want to advise you though to be careful to not cram too many words into these search boxes. In fact, I'm going to actually break up my topic into two pieces. We have the issue of the hydrocolloid bandage, and we have the issue of wound healing. I just like to do that because I'm showing the database I have these two different ideas, and when I click search, I want it to bring those two ideas together. There is a date range here. I'm going to fix that because if you remember, we have the 5-year limit. Some databases are going to have things called material type or publication type. And in this case, we have an option for case studies and have an option for meta-analysis. I can select both of those with a PC. That's the control button and clicking. Now when I run my search, it's going to look for materials that are identified as a meta-analysis or a case study within these 5 years using these key terms. The next thing you'll see is your search results screen. Here I have a list of 13 articles that have matched my search terms as well as the criteria of 2015 to 2020 and anything tagged as a case study or meta-analysis. You might see a number anywhere from 1 to thousands. It just sort of depends on your topic and how much is published, but it also depends on the terms that you're using. Again, there is no quick in and out with these databases. It's going to take a lot of changing and trying different approaches, different terms. One thing that I realized is that when looking into this topic, hydrocolloid dressings are always used on wound healings. It goes hand in hand. So I'm actually going to try to expand my search a little bit and just remove wound healing. And it opened it up a little bit to anything that's tagged with hydrocolloid within the CINAHL database and also tagged as a case study and meta-analysis. Again, that's a very simple approach, but it turns out almost everything that's connected to this topic deals with wound healing. It's sort of like saying Band-Aids, searching for research on Band-Aids and Band-Aids wound healing. That's what Band-Aids are for. So it's almost the same thing. I'm going to try to actually expand my scope a little bit using just hydrocolloid. Then I'll start looking through my list and seeing if I'm on the right track or not. I might have to go back and change some of my terms. You'll see that there are subject terms that got tagged to this. Each of these articles, you might be able to use some of those terms as more search terms, but I'll have to spend time looking through this. One of the reasons I believe that the results list is smaller than what I was expecting, it's because of this limitation where it has to be a case study or a meta-analysis. That's going to bring the results down quite a bit. But as you look through them, look to see if anything catches your attention. Most databases will let you save articles and come back to them later. In this type of database, it has a folder icon here that you'll be able to add to your folder. When you click on it, those articles will show up in the case of this database in your research folder. Make sure that you create an account with the database if you want to save this within this folder. Right now, if I'm not signed in and I close this window, it will dump this, but you can create a free account within the CINAHL database so that anything you find and put in your folder, you'll be able to retrieve later. When you're looking through your articles in your database list, you're going to find a couple different options. Some will have pictures. This one's kind of graphic. There's definitely our wound. Notice, I didn't put in wound here, but it's bringing back articles with blisters, scars, open wounds, and it's listed here. Here's a case study. Here is a meta-analysis. Articles tend to be very, very specific. So in the case of number 19, this is a meta-analysis on hydrocolloid dressing, and it's on a certain type of wound, a bed sore. Right? So that's something to think about. Also in this list, there were like burns, so you might have to specify hydrocolloid and then an exact type of wound or injury. So when you click on an article's title, you'll get to the articles page in the database. The articles page will likely have an abstract to tell you what was studied, who was studied, how it was studied. You'll see the terms that got tagged to this article that you might consider using as other search terms. The citation information, the authors, all these are clickable, so it turns out maybe this author has written multiple articles on this topic. You could click on it and see everything in this database published by this author. There's a couple cool tools on this page as well. In the case of this database, there's a cite button, and you can click on that and it will show you a couple different options for how to cite this article. Please double check it though. Never just copy and paste these into your bibliography, because sometimes there are errors. They're just automatically generated, and you just don't want to make the mistake of copying and pasting a citation that wasn't 100% correct. So this is how we conducted this search within CINAHL Complete. Depending on your topic, you might have to go back, and in this case, you might want to go back and try PubMed as well. There's going to be some overlap between these two different databases, but each one is also going to have some articles that it keeps track of uniquely. Obviously, the abstract and citation information is not going to be enough for your research. You're going to have to get the full text or the PDF of the article. There's a couple different ways to do that. I'm going to walk you through it. You'll need to check to see if the PDF is available in the database. There'll usually be an icon or a link that says full text. If so, go ahead and download it and save it to your computer, just in case you ever lose internet access. You'll have the article on hand. In the database, you might see a Find It button if there isn't a PDF icon. What that will do will take you back to the library's catalog to see if that article is in one of our other databases. If it isn't available, there'll be a no full text message, and you can request it via interlibrary loan, ordering it for free. So going back to our CINAHL database results list, you can see that the PDF icon is here. I can click on that and it will bring up the article within the browser. You could either read it within the window, or in this case, the download PDF button is up here. Other times you can usually just right click on the article itself and click Save As. If you don't see a PDF icon, you're going to see the Find It button. So let's find an article that we're interested in that we're going to have to see if it's in one of our other databases. I'm going to use this one we looked at earlier, Meta-Analysis of Effect of Foam Dressing and Hydrocolloid Dressing on Bed Sore Management. By clicking on Find It, it'll bring you back to the library's catalog, which we just looked at earlier. Make sure that you're signed in. There'll be a message here if you're not signed in, but if you are signed in, you'll see either a list of databases or a no full text available message. Don't be discouraged. That doesn't mean that the full text doesn't exist. It just means it's not available immediately in one of our databases. In this case, if you wanted to pursue this article, you're going to click on Request through Interlibrary Loan. That's our ordering service. It's free to you. I'm signed in. It filled out the order form for me, and then I can click on Submit Request. Usually can take anywhere from a couple hours to a couple days, but I'll get an email telling me that the article PDF has been uploaded into my account, and it'll give me a link and instructions on how to get that PDF. Similar to what we saw in the CINAHL database, the library's catalog page will also have a citation button for every item in the catalog. And you can check to see what the citations look like for that. In the same way, just double check it to make sure that it is correct. Once you find some articles that really match your topic and meet your research needs, I want you to make sure that you look over the bibliography of the article. Those other articles will be mentioned in the literature review section of the article, and you can find the specific citations on the bibliography, also called the reference page. Copy and paste the titles of those articles into either the database, or I would suggest OneSearch, to see if that article is available in one of our other databases. So let me show you what that will look like. This is the bibliography for one of the articles dealing with the hydrocolloid dressings. Let's say you saw something mentioned in the body of the article that cited another research team or research materials that lines up with the topic that you're studying. The best thing to do is just go straight to the title of that article, copy. Now you can copy and paste it into the database itself, but you're only going to be searching within the database. I suggest if you have the specific name of an article that you're looking for, type that article's name or paste that article's name into the search box. Running a search on that article's title will bring back a match, hopefully, to see if that article is available in full text or if we'd have to order it. And in this case, there's a perfect match, and it turns out the full text of this article is available in one of our other databases. And I'd be able to find it here by clicking on this. Just a tip, as I mentioned earlier, every database will have its own foldering system, and it's okay to use that. But what I recommend doing, every article that I find useful, I'll copy and paste the title into the OneSearch box. I'll find it here and then pin it. So then this pinning system within the catalog will be able to capture and save the records of articles regardless of which database they're in. Because back in that CINAHL database, I'm limited to just what's in that specific CINAHL collection. But the catalog skims all of those. You might come across an instance where when you copy and paste the title of the article that you found in your citation list, you might find that there are no exact matches when you run your search in the library's catalog. In that case, you can go directly to the interlibrary loan service, and you can fill out the order form yourself for articles that aren't listed in the library's catalog. So you can put in a new request, click on article, and fill out that information. We do have a video tutorial dedicated to interlibrary loan that you can find either in the description of this video or on the page that you're watching this video. As well as we have tutorials specifically for OneSearch and database searching. But I wanted to use this as opportunity to just kind of give you an overview of the entire process. There's one more resource that I want to draw your attention to, and it's called Proquest's Dissertations and Theses. This is a database that collects doctoral dissertations and theses. It's a great way to see what other students are doing and finding and researching within your area. In almost every case, you're not going to want to cite a dissertation or thesis within your own research, but you can use it similar to the bibliography page to find more materials on your topic. So, like I said, the name of the database itself is Proquest Dissertations and Theses, and you can find it directly from the library's homepage under the Articles and Databases link. Go to the P, and here it is, Proquest Dissertations and Theses. If you know the name of the database that you're looking for, you can also search for it within this box here, and it'll take you right to it. So I'm going to run the same search for hydrocolloid healing. And just depending on your topic, you might find exact matches, you might not find anything. But it's always worth a shot tossing in your topic and running a couple searches in this Proquest Dissertations and Theses, and maybe be able to review some current research that's being done by students or other doctoral candidates on the topic, and a lot of times these are very up to date and are a good source for finding more articles on that topic. Keeping in mind that this research process is going to take a long time and it's going to take a lot of trial and error. We only just dipped into the CINAHL database, but there are many other nursing databases that we would run this search through as well. With that in mind, if you ever need more help, remember that there's a lot of resources on the research guide for your subject area. Those research guides have contact information for the subject specialists. On the library's homepage, we also have a Need Help link. On this page, you can sign in and chat with a librarian during the reference service hours. You can find the specific librarian within your subject area. You can also fill out a question form. It will get submitted and sent to the librarians, and someone will get back to you as soon as possible. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video. It was just a demonstration of the overall search process. We have created many more tutorials, a lot shorter and a lot more specific and concise. I've linked to those in the description of this video, and depending on where you're watching this, it might be embedded on the page as well. We have tutorials focusing on OneSearch, tutorials focusing on database searching, tutorials that focus on using interlibrary loan. So it would be worth your time to check those out and get up to speed on everything you need to know to carry out your library research.